Good morning, everybody. Really? Are you that tired? Yes. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, good morning. Hey, I'd like to introduce you to Harley. Harley hasn't been at camp, but Harley's rocked up because he's had to work. He's come today. Yeah. That song, how awesome was that? Last night we talked about the importance of your gifts, about God's calling on your life, and how the greatest calling He has on your life is to love other people, right? That's the thing we talked about last night. And so what a great song we had today. Those words are absolutely brilliant. I just wrote them down, not in exactly the way that they are written, but open up my eyes, show me who you are, fill me with your heart, lead me to show love to those around me, right? That's not perfectly how it was written, but open up my eyes. So today what I want to do is I wanted to interview Harley, and I think we can capture some of that thought about love and about God's encounter with you. So Harley, what I want you to do is I want you to start by telling us that moment when you encountered God.
So this is my dad, if you haven't. So I've grown up in the church my whole life. My dad's been in the church most of his life. And I've grown up living the Christian life. I lived it every day since I was born. I went to church every Sunday. We prayed at the table, everything like that. We read the Bible together. But even with all of that, for a lot of the time I struggled with my own faith, because it was just, when I had done it my whole life, it was just this thing I did, right? It never actually became a part of my life. It was just, I do this like a job. It was just a title. And it's very unsustainable. So when you're trying to keep up this persona of being the Christian and living the Christian life when you don't feel like you're a Christian is really, really difficult, and it burnt me out. It burnt me out in my faith, it burnt me out in my mental health, everything along those lines. When it was about 2018, and I went on a young adults camp, just like this camp you guys are on now, and I was in a really bad place, and we had one night where we ended up in prayer, and I was sitting by myself just praying to God because I was done. I was like, I've been here my whole life. I've done this my whole life. I've never seen you. I've never felt your presence. Like, what am I doing wrong? And it was in that desperation where, I remember clear as day. I was sitting in I think it was QCC as well. It was literally right over there, up against those curtains. And I reached out to God and I was like, where were you? I've spent my whole life here trying to live for you. Where were you? And in that moment, it was a thought, but it wasn't my own thought. It was a thought in another person's voice. So you know how you have your internal monologue? It's in your voice. This was a thought, but it was in not my voice. And I knew it to be God's voice. All He said to me was, don't worry. I have always been with you. And again, just like that time there, I just broke down. Because like in that song, open my eyes, show me your wonder. He opened my eyes, He showed me where He was. He was like, don't worry. I was with you there. I was with you there. I have never left you. I never forsake you. You're my child. I love you. And just being overbeared by that love that He actually showed me, it was a turning point. It switches on that, fill me with your heart, show me who you are. And He did. He showed me who He was. He showed me what His love is like. And I had to take that on board. I can't just ignore that anymore. So
you were motivated by this something happened to you, this encounter. I know some people here today, they're struggling with that same thing you're saying, is there's, I don't know, where's God, right? And you had this encounter. What effect did that have on you?
So it was a turning point. I realized that is how you live your life, how Jesus lived his life. You look in the Bible, what did he do? He loved others. He spent time with the people that needed him. He didn't spend time in the church. He didn't spend time with the Pharisees. He spent time with the orphan. He spent time with the Samaritan. He spent time with those people, sowed into their lives, because they're the ones that need it. So I'm like, I need to do that. I need to show love to the people that need it, to the people that don't have anyone else, that don't have that love in their life. I need to be that love. And that changes how you act out your life. It's no longer about me. It's about everyone else. It's about you. And when everyone's caring for everyone else, how many people are caring for you? Everyone else. And when we spend our lives trying to internalize and care for ourselves, there's only one person caring for you, and you do a pretty terrible job at it.
So give me some examples of how this, because, life's not easy. You've just told us that. I'm pretty sure it didn't continue to suddenly be easy. How do you then work this out? What are some of the ways in which love exhibits itself? Now, I want to just precursor this because this isn't something you normally talk about, right? If you're going to show love to someone, that's something you quietly keep to yourself, and you do what, it's a humble thing. So to talk about it kind of amplifies it a bit, and I don't want to do that. I want us to keep the focus on Jesus. And let's just talk about what are some of the ways you show love.
So in my own life, I live in a house with other guys. Most of the other guys aren't Christians. And to live in that place, I need to be the love, right? I need to keep showing love and stay strong in my faith in that way. How this manifests is it's maintaining an integrity, because other people might be doing things that you don't agree with, or things that aren't good, that are unhealthy, and you have to stay strong and keep exhibiting that love, because that's how you affect and chip away at their lives to try to help make them better. And it also manifests in acts. One of my gifts would be generosity. I love giving. I recently had a workmate who had his bike stolen. His bike was his car. He rode to work every day, right? And without a bike, he had to walk. And it turns his 10-minute bike ride into a 1-hour walk. And without hesitating, I'm like, I have a bike. It's yours. It's not... I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to plan it out. He came to me, he told me, he's like, oh, my bike was stolen. I'm like, don't worry. Same thing God told me. Don't worry. I've got you, And we need to be able to keep sowing into people's lives, doing things for them. And that's how that's how the Christian life enters their life. And then they see that. They see that's weird. Why would you just give me that? Why would you do that for me? There's no logic behind it. It's the power of God. He gives you that ability to do that.
Tell us about one of your housemates and some of the journey you've had to take with him, some of the difficulties his life exhibited, and how you've been able to, show him something about the heart of Jesus. So,
some of my housemates, 3 of my housemates aren't Christians. One of them specifically, who's a good mate of mine. We've lived together since 2017, I believe. Oh, no, 2019, I think. And at that time, he's a bit younger than me. He was in grade 12. And he was basically kicked out by his mum. It just so happened to be in the timing when we were looking for a new housemate. So he was kicked out from his parents and came to live with us. Then fast forward a few years, we become friends, we get to talking. He's very intelligent, like I am. We have intelligent conversations, right? We talk about philosophy.
At least you think they're intelligent.
Oh, at least we
right?
think so. But we talk about like philosophy or science, anything like that. And we'd occasionally talk about theology or about God. And initially, because a bit of context to him, when he was kicked out by his mum because pretty much the reason he told me was the Centrelink paycheck she got for having him as a kid ran out. So he was no longer useful to her. So, like, it's hard for me because I've never known that. I've grown up in a loving family. I've had people there for me, and he had no one. And so his whole life, he's grown up not knowing love. He's grown up with people failing him that weren't there for him. So he, a bit of context that his mother was racist, manipulative, just honestly a terrible person. And that transfers through nurture to him. So he was a bit terrible, rude, everything like that. But I had to show love, right? Through all of that. Because that's what I've been called to do, is show love. And during this process, which has been a long process since 2019, so at least 3 years, just slowly keep showing love, break a little thing, break an old habit, keep sowing into his life so that I can see a change. Just recently we were talking, it was about a month or two ago, and we were having our conversations like we like to have, talking about the universe or anything like that. And we were talking about God, and I was explaining some things. And through all of this, he's seen the things I've done. And I don't remember the exact words, but I'll kind of like paraphrase it. He saw what I did and couldn't understand it. He's like, I don't get you. I don't get how you do this, because in his understanding, love is like, oh, okay, I'll buy you something, because that's what his mum did, Oh, here's something I bought for you. That's love, There's nothing behind it. It's just, shut up and do that. So, if he wanted to do something for me, he'd buy me something. He'd buy me a coffee or whatever, anything like that. And he was like, I don't get you because I don't know what you're displaying. And I was like, this is love. That's what I'm trying to display. And this is what God showed me, is like, to love.
He came to a point somewhere where he kind of said, it broke him. He said, I've never experienced this before.
So he said to me that he didn't know what love was, but through me, he figured out what it was. And it kind of broke me because he said, I've never been loved before. And, it's like, I have to stay strong in my faith, stay strong in showing love, because he needs someone. Everyone else has failed him, and so I can't. And I can't do that on my own. I need to keep the strength of God with me, because he's the power that actually flows through me in talking to someone and, sowing into their lives. And from that, he's always been like, it just doesn't make sense how the universe came into existence. There has to be some kind of higher power. So he was starting to think about it. And then after that one, he basically came to me, he's like, do you have a Bible? And I was like, of course I have a Bible. So I gave him my own Bible. And I'm starting off from John, and now he's reading the Bible. And it's just I know God's has him in his hands, and he wants to take care of him, and he's done that through me.
That's good. All right. I know we're going a little bit longer than normal. I do apologise. I hope it's been meaningful for you. I just want to ask you one more question, and then we're going to go to team time. If you were going to give any advice to anybody here who's saying, I just don't feel God, I just don't know God, or I just don't know how to say, give a couple of, like a minute or so, what could you tell us? What would you say to someone here today about that?
You need to pursue it. It's work, it's hard, but you need to rest in him, push into him, because he is your strength, right? Like I think Dad was saying earlier about, maybe it was last night, I was listening to the thing as I was driving up, to not just look at the machine, right, the exercise equipment, but to actually use it. So use God. He's there for you. He's there for everyone, right? And he wants to show you love. He wants to be in your life. He wants to do that. We just have to want him back. So, that's my point. You have to want him. And then after you want him, you have to learn what he's like, learn that love, and you have to build that up to a strength where you can now sow into other people's lives. Because if you go in as a new Christian into hard-up areas where the world is pushing back against you, you need to stay strong. You need that firm foundation, like it says in that song. God is that firm foundation. His love is that firm foundation. You need to hold fast to that, because you will get pushed back on and it will break you down like it did for me before. I didn't have that strong faith and it broke me down. And coming to that realization, I need God. He's the power. Then you take that power and use it, and so into other people's lives.
Awesome. Why don't you give Harley a hand? Thank you. Come on up.